Hey, how's it going, guys? Jack and Matter with the Toasty Bros, your favorite Toasty Bros, and today we're here to show you guys how to build a PC at 350 bucks.
This is an awesome budget build guide that'll get you into PC gaming on a platform that is very upgradable and also looks good out of the gate. But before we dive into this, let's hear a word from today's sponsor. Today's video is brought to you by GVG Mall, the online marketplace to gain access to some really awesome discounted game keys and more specifically, Windows 10 licenses.
With Windows 10, it is so easy just to go onto the website using the link in the description down below, and then go to the Windows 10, click buy it now, add code TB20, then go to the checkout, put in your payment info, and then boom, you will get within a few seconds or a few minutes an activation code that you will go into Windows 10, put in the activation code, and it is fully legit. It will work out of the box, and you will have a fully activated Windows 10 license.
We use GVG Mall for all the PCs we built here at the Toasty Bros, and so should you. So definitely check the link in the description down below and use code TB20 to save money on checkouts.
So as mentioned, this is only $350 and you can replicate this build yourself very easily using the links in the description down below, and there will be affiliate links and they'll help us out. But this build actually features everything, all 7 major components of the PC. So we actually have a dedicated graphics card going along with our CPU, not just a typical APU build. So you guys will actually get to see a full in-depth build guide, and we're gonna benchmark it live as well.
So what we're gonna go ahead and do is talk about each individual part, where we got it from and how it makes up this gaming PC build.
So the processor we have here is probably one you have never seen before. This is an Athlon X4, and you may be wondering, well, isn't that AM3 Plus or like FX? Well, it is an FX processor on the AM4 platform. So we have an A320MK to put it in. We've actually already tested just to make sure this actually works with this board, and it did actually work fine. So just a 4-core, 4-thread. What does it pair to? Honestly, I don't really know. It's probably worse than a Ryzen 1200, but we'll find out once we do some benchmarks. Now for the RAM, we decided to save a little bit of money by not going RGB. So this is DDR4 Classic from our friends over at Team Group. It's actually pretty good stuff. 3200 megahertz, 2 sticks, 8 gigs a piece, so dual channel, 16 gigs total, plenty for every modern game out there. Now here's where we definitely saved a little bit of money. We probably saved about 10 bucks by not going with an NVMe SSD. This is the Lexar NQ100, and this is a 480 gig. What an interesting size, 2.5-inch SSD. Now, one thing to note is that this motherboard does actually have an NVMe M.2 slot, so if you ever wanted to, you could just spend an extra 10-20 bucks and get an NVMe version of this drive here. And to cool that CPU, we actually have a standard Wraith Stealth cooler, so you can tell it's a Stealth because of how short this heatsink is, but it's more than enough for this. Honestly, this CPU probably had an even smaller cooler from the factory, and it did not come with one. Some of them will, some won't, so we just have one of these sitting on the shelf. You can pay about 9 bucks for one of these on eBay as well.
Now the graphics card, and yeah, this thing actually has a graphics card. This is an RX 462 gig, which is an OEM version. It's red, it has a very basic fan, nothing too crazy about it, but at $350, this is the best you're gonna do paired with something like this Athlon, and it's gonna be equally balanced. You really would wanna upgrade like the CPU and everything if you wanna go with a better GPU, but yeah, 460, nice looking card, 1080p, esports titles, no problems whatsoever. And for the power supply, we have an EVGA power supply here. This is the EVGA 510BP, which is an A+ bronze power supply. 510 watts is honestly a little bit overkill for this PC, but I'm considering upgrades in the future, adding in a better CPU, a better graphics card, and things like that, and you won't have to change out your power supply in this PC build. Now this right here is the return of one of our favorite cases. This is a DIY PC case, the ARGB Q8W. This thing was a whopping 24 bucks when I bought it from Newegg. DIY PC sells a lot of their stuff on Newegg, and they're really, really cheap cases. But the thing is, like, you can get a really cheap name brand case, but it's probably gonna be more expensive than this and not have like RGB like this one has and tempered glass. So really like DIY PC for these kinds of really, really cheap builds. Now what we're gonna go ahead and do is turn on this GoPro, and we're gonna show you how to set everything up on the motherboard nice and quick. We're not gonna just bore you with a bunch of extra details, and then just show you how to build the whole PC. All right guys, first thing you wanna do is open up your Asus Prime A320MK motherboard. Now this is a very cheap motherboard. It's very basic, very bare bones, but most A320 boards can handle up to like a Ryzen 5 without any problems, and yeah, go all the way up to 6 cores and 12 threads. Now this one we already have open to do some testing to make sure everything worked properly. This is that extra M.2 slot that we talked about where you can add M.2 SSD, and then this is where the CPU goes. So pretty straightforward. Now to open up your CPU that you have right here that you bought from AliExpress, keep in mind they are from AliExpress, $20. They're probably used, but yeah, that is the only factor. It's going to take a little bit of time for you to get, but it's a very good deal right now. You're going to open up this little latch right here. You're gonna pull out your CPU, hold it by the side so you don't touch these pins. These pins are very delicate. If you break them, you have some problems on your hand. So we're gonna go ahead and line up the gold arrow right here with the arrow on the board. Very simple. And we're not gonna put any extra force, we're just gonna let it sit. and boom, it's in there, I think. Yes, it's in there. And then we're gonna go ahead and put this latch down. And look at that, that CPU is installed and ready to go. Now your motherboard's gonna come with these little plastic black clips that are holding this backplate in right here. You're going to unscrew those. I went ahead and did that already. And then what you're gonna do is put this backplate back on, because it might fall off, that does happen. Set this board down. Yeah, there you go. And then you're gonna take your CPU cooler. And another thing is, if you buy a new Wraith cooler, it will have thermal paste pre-applied, but we do not have that, so we're gonna need some thermal paste real quick.
There's some right behind you.
Oh, there's some behind me?
Some
oh my goodness.
Cooler Master gel? Or
yeah, we got some Master Pro gel. If you guys want specific thermal paste suggestions, check the links down below. We're gonna do basically a little pea-size little blob of thermal paste here. We're gonna do like something like that. Yeah, that's not too bad.
A little drippy drip.
Now, one thing you're seeing right here, and it's a common issue, is that there's not gonna be any RAM clearance when we have the cooler going this way. So what you're gonna wanna do is go ahead and flip the cooler like this and run the cable here instead. So we're going to go ahead and push that down.
First try.
Yeah, first try, no problems whatsoever. The magic of video editing. So we'll go ahead and plug this in right here into the CPU fan header. And then we're gonna do the exact same thing we did before. Well, actually we didn't do it before. You already didn't see that. We're gonna screw in opposing corners. One thing you can do is just kind of tuck that cable right there and hide it. Boom, look at that, nice and clean. Now we're gonna move on to the RAM. The RAM is super easy to install. And once again, we want this RAM because, well, it's pretty cost effective. 16 gigs is really cheap nowadays, and going with 8, I mean, you're gonna have some issues running newer games with 8 gigs of RAM. So you might as well go 16, quote unquote, future-proof yourself a little bit and be good to go. And this stuff's only like 55 bucks, so it's kind of a no-brainer. So we're gonna go ahead and try to open this up. God, it's like really hard to get out. All right, 2 sticks right here. We're gonna go ahead and push these 2 little pins back, and then we're going to line up this with the slot on the RAM. So we're gonna go ahead and line this up like so.
It still is really hitting that cooler.
It's still hitting the cooler, so it's very close, but I think we'll be able to make it work. Yep, look, it just slid right underneath there. That's perfect. So go ahead and do the same thing with this one and push until you get a click. These little tabs will pop back in, and boom, we have the motherboard ready to go. From here, Jackson's gonna go ahead and strap up and then show you how to put in the power supply into the case, and then we'll plop everything in there and build the rest of the computer.
All right, guys, we have the next step. This is a kind of intimidating step to an extent, so we're actually going to go ahead and put the motherboard into the case. You really could do the motherboard or the power supply first. We're just gonna go do the motherboard, get that out of the way. All right, so now I'm just gonna go ahead and get this cable out of the way. I'm gonna run it through, this is actually the CPU 4 or 8 pin tunnel right here. So we're gonna go ahead and run that through. I like the way they put their screws right here.
That's an interesting spot.
All right, so now we're nice and clear. We're good to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and lay this on its side, and hopefully Matt can still see everything. We need to get the I/O shield out, which should be right here. And your motherboard's gonna come with SATA cables, by the way. It'll usually come with 2, so you don't need to buy this separate. But I'm gonna go ahead and we have our I/O shield out. So we're gonna make sure our audio ports face down towards the power supply basement. It's pretty much always like, they can't really say I've ever seen it the other way, unless it's like a pre-built. And now we're just gonna basically snap this in, and some cases are a little bit more feisty than others. Okay, actually, sometimes it doesn't click in, by the way. Don't be discouraged if it does, and it's not the end of the world. As long as you can get the screws to line up and the I/O shield's there, you're pretty much good to go. And so now, if we look back here, I got the camera looking and Matt can see the inside. You can kind of see everything kind of fell into place and looks pretty good. Screw holes are now lining up. And it looks to me like they're going to be a fine thread screwed, and our actual case will come with screws. I've never seen a case that doesn't. So we're gonna go ahead and open the screw kit. So the fine thread ones are gonna be these little guys with the round caps. These are like what we call power supply screws. They kind of have like a, I guess you call it a hexagonal top, whatever shape a socket is. I can't even think of it right now. But we're gonna go ahead and get a screw in, and we'll show you why in a minute. This is for cable management purposes. You can go ahead and screw in the board if you want to, if you're square, but we aren't squares around here. Us toasty bros and PC bros, we like our cable management nice and tidy. So I'm only going to be putting a screw into the top corner right now because look, perfectly fine. There's no problem with it. The reason I'm doing is because I want to be able to do stuff like this. You see this cable coming through here? I want to be able to put cables through the back of the board so it looks clean. I don't want to have to run it here. I want to run it right here. So we have the least amount of cable showing. So speaking of cable, let's go ahead and get our power supply in. Then we'll go ahead and do the SSD real quick. So here's our pretty little power supply. It's not semi-modular, so everything's plugged in. You can't unplug anything. You could cut some cables if you wanted to. I don't recommend it, but you know, we've done it before.
You can do it.
All right, so now we're gonna be using our coarse thread screws that we talked about when you're gonna need 4 of them. And it's pretty much the same on every power supply. I've never seen one that uses fine thread. I've never seen one that uses less than 4. All right, we got the power supply in, nice and easy. Make sure that fan faces down, by the way. Very rare cases that it won't. As you can see, there's a fan filter right here, so the air is gonna be coming in and out the back, or out the back and then through the bottom. So it keeps it separate from the rest of the whole cooling loop. So now we're gonna go ahead and put in our SSD. This is once again a step that you could really do last if you wanted to, just Matt and I always forget. All right, so I'm gonna actually install this in this SSD cage. I'll show you guys where it goes in just a sec. First, we're gonna get it installed. See these holes lining up? Looks very good, very good. And that's gonna be fine thread. All SSDs will use fine thread, same with like any 2.5-inch laptop drive. I tend to think, my teacher said I'd never make it. All right, so now before we put this tray back in, this is pretty common. We wanna go ahead and plug in this stuff because it's gonna be really hard. So your SATA data transfer cable, it looks like that. It can only go in one way. So I got that plugged in. We're gonna go ahead and plug in one of our, it really does not matter which one you use. You just need a SATA power cable. I'm gonna use the very end one. And just like this, I'm gonna go ahead and plug this in. Sometimes it's like really pushed down at the bottom, so it's like really difficult. There we go. The GoPro, get to see, this is how this mounts. It kind of like slides in. Every case has its own unique mounting for like hard drive cages is what they call them. This one doesn't even have a hard drive cage. It just has a single like hard drive tray that slides out, and then you just take a screw it in, and now we are mounted. I'm gonna tighten it too so we don't have that rattle. And McAllister is really loud.
He's so loud.
All right, and so while we're on the SSD, let's just go ahead and finish that out. We're gonna go ahead and plug it into the motherboard. I think Matt's gonna get a nice angle with this. I'm gonna run this one behind the board as well. So we're gonna use SATA 1 or SATA 0, either way. And it really, you don't have to. I mean, technically I could use like 4, 5, 6, but on older motherboards, you really wanna make sure you do 1 or 0 because a lot of the times they aren't 6 gigabyte per second ones. All right, so we got that done. Matt, what do you suggest we do next? Do you think we just start plugging things in?
We should plug some stuff in.
All right, we're gonna go quick with it, all right? You ready for this?
Go.
All right, 24 pin. This is going to be your main motherboard power. We're going to run that behind the board right here. We got a nice little cutout for it. Keep in mind, every single case is gonna have different cutouts. So no two cases are going to be the exact same unless you do only DIY, but even then, their cases are different. All right, it's in. Here we go. And that should get a nice click. Make sure you don't leave any cables loose because that's how you get a PC that intermittently works and you're like, what's happening? All right, I'm gonna give you the front panel. These guys right here. This is like your power switch, your power LED, hard drive LED, reset switch. And once again, this is kind of case dependent. Some cases will have all of those. Some will only just have like a power switch and a reset. It really just depends because you gotta remember hard drives are kind of getting phased out, so it's not like it's an essential thing. All right, so here it is. I'm running that front panel behind the board. And Matt's going to get that plugged in, and then I will run him another cable.
So yeah, the front panel is normally the same, like it can vary, so check your motherboard's manual, but from left to right, the bottom left, it ends up being the power LED. Then on top of that, actually no, power LED on the top, hard drive LED on the bottom. And then let's go to the next one, and it's going to be the reset switch right next to, on the bottom, the hard drive LED. And right above the reset switch will be the power switch, which turns on the board. And if for some reason your system doesn't turn on, definitely check this to make sure you have it plugged in the right spot.
All right, now I'm giving him a USB. So that's just a pretty standard USB 2 front panel header is what they call it. By the way, pretty much all these cables can only go in one way besides the front panel. Front panel can kind of go in any way you want it to, so it won't hurt anything.
USB 3 is on the bottom.
Oh. It won't hurt anything doing it, you know, multiple ways. It just might not turn on or might not have like an LED or whatever.
Go there.
All right, so we have an HD audio now. This one you can tell the difference because instead of missing the far pin, it's missing one more towards the middle, basically one off the very end. So once again, can only plug in one way. So
it's normally on the far left of the board.
And then we just have one more thing to plug into this board, and that's the CPU. So this is actually 2 4 pins.
We only need a 4 pin.
Yeah, and we only need a 4. So I'm basically gonna kind of do this for Matt, kind of split them and send it like that. He's gonna have to use both pretty much though, because you know, not a lot of slack.
Separate it. And that is plugged in, and we are looking good. And from here, you have all the cables ran. So we're gonna go ahead and do is take those fine threaded screws and screw the board the rest of the way in, and then we're going to install that graphics card.
And so now while Matt gets the rest of the board screwed in, I'm gonna go ahead and just get this stuff here ready. So the only other thing I'm going to have to plug in on this specific case, once again, very, very case dependent and case specific, is I'm going to plug in this Molex connector right here, and that's going to power our RGB fans. This is kind of a pretty old school method, by the way. A lot of cases do not use this. We saved some money and went with a very cheap case that used these Molex style connectors for the fans. It's very annoying to plug in Molex, by the way, but here we go. All those fans are ready to go now, the 2 fans. And so now the rest of this stuff can actually go just in the basement. Like this right here would be if you get a higher end graphics card that needs PCIe power. But luckily that RX 460, kind of what we planned for, does not need external power. So that's why Matt was saying that power supply is kind of overkill. I mean, he really could use like an OEM, like off the shelf, super cheap one, but we decided we want that whole upgrade path. And so now, you know what? Matt's gonna be screwing in that graphics card. I'm gonna go ahead and start cable managing simultaneously.
All right, we have the rest of the board screwed in. Now we're going to take our graphics card, which is the beautiful RX 460. Yes, it is red. It is very red. So what we're gonna go ahead and do is we're going to break off. Let's see, this is just pop off. Let's see, some of these covers are different. This one looks like it just pops off. Oh, yep, so this one is like a hinge. Oh, that's interesting. So you're gonna go ahead.
Innovative.
And push this little tab in that's on the inside right here. It'll open up, innovation. And then you're gonna break off these 2 tabs. But if you wanna make sure to know which ones you actually break off, you're gonna be installing the GPU in this top slot, the 16X slot. So you're gonna be lining it up like so. And then we're gonna be breaking these plastic tabs.
Drop it like it's hot.
Boom, they're gone. Now you will be able to have access to your I/O, which is like these video outs, so you can actually plug in a monitor. So we're going to line up the graphics card here, and we're going to push it in until it clicks. And then from here, you're going to take the coarse thread or power supply screws, and you're going to use that to screw in the graphics card in these little screw holes that'll hold it in place so it doesn't fall out.
And basically once Matt does that, really the computer is done at that point. You just gotta get your Windows installed. A couple of pointers is if you need a Windows installation, you guys can use our code over at GVGMall-TV20 and get some nice discount that's actually in our description. You can also go to our PC Slang Business PC Bros, and we actually sell the pre-made USB with the activation key on it. So that's also a good choice. And then if you guys have any problems where like the PC's not working, we also have some troubleshooting videos on Toasty DIY and PC Bros YouTube.
Yep, so we have a lot of different resources to help you guys out. So boom, there we go, graphics card is installed, and yeah, everything should be good. Once Jackson is done with this cable management, we'll boot this thing up, make sure everything is working properly, but as of right now, that is a functional computer.
And guess what? I just gotta snip some cables and I'm done.
All right, so we're just gonna keep this going live then, all right?
Boom. So this is the whole reason why I said don't go all out on cable management. You might need to work on your PC at some point or another, maybe.
Or immediately.
Before you've ever turned it on. So this is kind of once again, a custom mod mistake. I decided to try to be greedy and make the case look even better and run that cable back there. It didn't end up working very well, so I'm just gonna pop this off real quick. Don't wanna hurt my fingies like Matt did today. He hurt his fingies too many times. All right, so we'll go with Matt's idea. I think we can run it right through here, actually.
Yep, that
looks pretty good. All right, and then we're gonna pop that back on. And now, you know what? I don't even need to redo the cables.
No, you can just hide right there. So my idea was better, superior.
It was better, superior. Boom. And then we should have 2 of these little guys here. Go ahead and screw those on. Of course, YouTube audience has to be here while we turn it on for the first time, because that's scary. Not really, you know, we've built like 3,000 computers and we've never once had one where we turned on it like blew up or anything. Unless you do something horribly wrong. Worst case scenario, the power supply has so many smart features built in, it'll auto shut the PC off. So we can go ahead and leave our glass panel off. It literally does nothing, just keeps dust out and keeps your little brother from sticking his greasy fingers in there, his Cheeto hands. And where power switch is flipped on, that's important. Boom. And then we have an RGB switch on the side. We'll see what that does.
Whoa, he almost died. Oh.
Can we get
there has to be some sort of RGB.
I'm honestly surprised it has like this many modes.
Oh, look at that, baby.
Not a bad, this is probably the best $24 case I have ever seen.
So yeah, this thing has a lot of room for upgradability and it works good out of the gate. So what we're gonna go ahead and do is get Windows installed and then just dive into some benchmarking. All right guys, if you're curious on how to install Windows, we're gonna show you real quick. Now this right here is a Windows USB, which we'll go ahead and get to focus on. I mean, it's just a flash drive, so nothing really special about it. But you can buy these ready to go with a key at our website, pcbros.tech, if you don't wanna deal with the process of setting one up. But all you have to do, and you'll see on screen here, is go to Microsoft's website, download the Windows Install tool, get a USB. I believe you need to have at least 8 gigabytes to get it set up. Install the Windows installer onto the USB, and then take your little flash drive right here, and we're gonna go ahead and plug it into the back of the computer, just like so. Make sure everything is powered and ready to go. Make sure you have a keyboard and mouse plugged up, you know, all the basics. And then from here, all you have to do, wherever the mouse is, I lost the mouse cable. Guys, don't lose your mouse cable, it's bad. And once your computer turns on, as long as this is a brand new install and you haven't, well, had Windows install on the USB or anything before, it should go ahead and post and boot directly to that flash drive and allow you to install Windows 10 directly. But first, it says to run setup, so we're not totally there yet. Let's go ahead and F1. This will go into your BIOS. You really don't have to do anything here yet. You can go ahead and enable XMP, but I would recommend getting the system up and running. We'll talk about that later before you actually get that 3200 megahertz speed. And we're gonna hit OK. And we're gonna go ahead and have another reboot here where it's going to do the same thing, show the Asus logo. And look at that, there's the Windows logo, and then it's gonna start loading. So we are using a Windows 10 installer. Again, you can use Windows 11 if you want to, use GVGMall, or use our Windows 10 bootable drive with a key, and then you can upgrade to Windows 11 in the future, but we're gonna go ahead and run through the setup process. Gonna hit, I don't have a product key, but if you go ahead and buy your GVGMall key, you will have a product key. Gonna do Windows 10 Pro. I accept the terms. Custom install. There's your drive, it showed up, boom, ready to go. Hit next, and Windows is gonna go ahead and install, and then we will be inside Windows. All you do is install drivers, and then download your games, and we'll be ready to benchmark, which we're gonna do because we wanna play some video games, right?
All right, guys, we are now playing Valorant. We're at pretty much all those settings, as you can see here. And yeah, it's not super playable. It's not the worst, but it's definitely not great.
That seems awful. Why is it so bad?
Maybe we're buffering still.
Oh my God.
Oh man.
Oh no.
Maybe there's some stuff in the background I can close or something.
There has to be, I feel like there has to be something running. It seems...
It can't stop me from hitting my shots though. Can we close like Steam for now, you think?
Maybe, yeah.
Steam, Epic Games.
Sure. It could be updating, I don't know.
Yeah, CPUs, it definitely helped a lot. CPUs definitely kind of getting close to 100% at most times, so that's something just to kind of keep in mind. That's kind of what we were saying earlier, you know, I mean, if you can afford the difference, go ahead and get yourself like a Ryzen 1200, or you could even go with like a 2600. I mean, there's a lot of options you could do.
Yeah, it's based on FX. It's an older architecture, and it's really just to get you into that socket. So yeah, spending a little extra money on 1200 would definitely get you there, but I mean, you can still hit those op shots.
You still hit those op shots, though.
Still hit those.
Yeah, now that we closed out some applications in the background, it's not too bad. This game just must be pretty CPU dependent. It's honestly kind of hard to tell unless you benchmark a lot, you know, what games are graphics card dependent, what games are CPU dependent. You really just have to play them and kind of figure it out. But yeah, from the years of benchmarking, I'm sure Matt can kind of tell you guys what this game requires to be better.
Yeah, it definitely would be the CPU upgrade, I would say. You could go with 8 gigs of RAM if you want to. I was hoping that the CPU would be a little bit better than it actually is and went with 16. So you really could go 8 and get a Ryzen 3 1200, as we mentioned. It would probably be a little bit more balanced overall, and you can always add more RAM later. But yeah, so far, we're getting somewhere.
One thing I'm noticing that's really weird too is it looks like the graphics card numbers are kind of off. Because there's no way, like it's going down to like 0% at times. So I don't know, maybe that could have a little bit to do with our lag. Probably have a lot longer in this game, so we might just have to lose Matt some points here. Oh God, okay, well, there it goes, that's it. All right, well, Valorant, definitely playable once we close out some applications.
All right, guys, we are now in Fortnite, and we're starting to see how this X4 is bottlenecking the system a bit more. Hopefully in some of the other benchmarks that are more GPU dependent, we can start to see the RX 460 stretch its legs, but we are on performance mode, I think at like 50% render scale right now, and once we land in, we'll see what the average FPS is, but it is a bit stuttery, and you can see that X4 is pinged at 100%, so again, spending a little bit extra more money might be worth it here, but again, the CPU was $20 from AliExpress, so I mean, you can only expect so much for something for $20 that actually gets you on the Ryzen platform, and you see the stutter is intense. Oh God, we're loading. Is it settling out? I locked the frame rate to 60 because I do not see it going over 60 and having a good experience. So hopefully things settle out a little bit here once stuff loads in and we can get a pretty decent gaming experience. I hear people, where are they at? Oh, I can still kill somebody. Oh, he's almost dead. He's almost dead. This guy looks like a professional. Oh, he's done. Absolutely done.
Not a professional anymore.
Oh.
Yo, bro. Steady your aim, steady.
Oh, Porta Sniper, he's done. He's done. I'm a professional gamer. Oh, I'm getting shot at again. Where from? I can't tell. The lag is immense.
Ooh, this guy actually knows how to play.
Oh, mega yeet. Oh, am I getting shot at again? What is going on? Oh, and we still got him. We have 4 kills on this PC. Guys, don't even worry about those FPS numbers. You're still gonna get kills in Fortnite because, like, I mean, look at me. I'm a professional gamer right here. But yeah, I mean, Fortnite, not the best experience. I'm imagining 720p is probably your best bet here, but we are pretty CPU dependent, so going even lower resolution might not give you that much better of a gaming experience. So, you know, $350 PC. Oh wait, you know what? I keep talking, but there's another guy. With a dedicated graphics card, there's gonna be compromises. APUs are also a good option, but if you absolutely want a dedicated GPU, that's kind of what you're looking at for a realistic build. But yeah, the guy ran away. I couldn't kill him, but we're close to 60. We are dipping below 60 a decent amount. You can kind of play a game like this, but I am hoping to see if that 460, oop, I destroyed him, he's done. Hoping to see if that 460 can actually stretch his legs a little bit in a more GPU dependent game because this is just, it's not cutting it right now.
All right, guys, we're now playing Overwatch and we're at the low settings. Oh gosh, I gotta start moving. I was about to get disconnected for being AFK. But yeah, so this is Overwatch, and this, like Matt's saying, was a little bit more GPU dependent, so it seems like it's definitely running a little bit better. Is this Pharah gonna kill us though? She murked us.
You just got
We've
killed?
been murked.
Wow.
But yeah, this game definitely seems a little more playable, and this is definitely a definition of like a higher end esports game for sure. Because as you can see, even on low settings, it's still, oh my gosh, in this room we are getting lag.
Lag issues.
Lag issues. No, whenever we're like in like a tight space, it gets like really bad. Definitely, like, it's like every game we've played, we definitely have a lot of lag spikes. But to be fair, we're also playing games that like we probably really wouldn't recommend playing on this. Because this is more of like a Minecraft, Roblox, World of Warcraft, League of Legends, games like that. You're not really, we wouldn't sell you this PC saying, oh yeah, play Fortnite, play Valorant, play Overwatch. We're just trying to show you guys like, hey, these are the limits, you know?
You're done.
Yeah, there's not too much to say about Overwatch though. Like, honestly, I would consider this to be almost unplayable. We're on 1080p, right?
Yeah, we are.
That is one other thing you could honestly, like, that we haven't really mentioned much. You could, for every game that we've played, if you want to get a lot better FPS, I wonder if I can do it mid-game just to show you guys.
You might be able to change the resolution.
Yeah, we didn't do it in the other one, so I'll just show you for one game. So we're gonna go down to 720p. Do 720p 60. Yeah. We're gonna try borderless windowed. That might honestly lose us some FPS in itself, but yeah, 720p it actually looks just the same as 1080p, surprisingly. Let's get in like a fight here and see if it helped at all.
It does help a bit.
Lowering resolution really might not do too much to you, but that's more of a graphics card thing. Yeah, I mean, at this point, it just seems like the CPU is really, okay, well.
Just playing that
window. Just try like this and just see what it looks like.
$20 CPU from AliExpress. Not gonna give you the most amazing gaming experience.
Yep. All right, let's go to the next one.
All right, guys, the last game we're gonna be testing is Minecraft. And yeah, it's Minecraft. It's gonna run on something like this. You're not really gonna have any issues. We have it on pretty much all low settings though. That's how you're gonna get a pretty decent like locked 60 FPS experience. But yeah, we can build a house. We'll have no problems building one. Let's go and break down this wood real quick. Whenever Jackson and I used to play Minecraft when we were younger, my job was always to cut down the trees when we first started.
It's episode number 7 of Matt and Jackson's Minecraft adventure. And to start things off, I'm going to go get more wood. So let's go.
Starting the world, I always had to cut down the trees, and you know, it's a very lonely job. It's a very lonely job out there. In recap, I would say this PC, it's okay. I wouldn't say it's necessarily the best build guide we've ever done. You know, most certainly will get better value for your dollar if you spend more money on something like a, oh, I don't know, like an 5600G or 3200G or something like that. Performance might actually be slightly the same, if not a little bit better. So you can actually play other games other than, you know, Minecraft and League of Legends and those other lower end titles. But if all you're looking for is to build a PC that can play Minecraft, do some schoolwork on the side, that Athlon X4 makes sense and it's upgradable. That's the biggest thing, is you have that upgrade path, or you can spend a little more money on a 3200G system, and with that upgrade path as well on like an A320 motherboard, you'll be able to add a GPU in later and things like that. But yeah, pretty close to 60. You are gonna get those lags there when you're trying to load in stuff, but in today's market, doing something like this that's a fully custom built PC and not just a, oh God, I just almost died. It's not just a off-the-shelf like Optiplex upgrade for about 300 something bucks, then you know, I think it has a place in the market. And for those at home, yes, you could buy an Xbox Series S. Definitely buy an Xbox Series S if you're someone who's okay with, well, playing on a console. But we do think that PCs have a very big benefit in the market, and they have a place, obviously, because, well, they're PCs. And I personally would rather go with a lower-end PC with an upgrade path than a console, because it can be kind of limiting in the long run. Or you can get a cheap laptop PC with your console. There's a lot of different things you can do in the budget space. The budget space is kind of weird right now, but I do really like this still, and it's somewhat playable. You can play Minecraft and play some other games and do some work on the side. So yeah, that's the benchmarking of this beautiful little RGB monster. Let's wrap this video up real quick.
All right guys, so we just got done benchmarking this PC, and you're probably thinking, well, it didn't do all that great, but one thing I want you guys to remember is that this is all new parts, aside from the CPU technically, and the graphics card to an extent. But yeah, all new parts in 2022 at the beginning of it, when prices are absolutely awful. And yeah, the fact that it can even play games is really impressive in itself. And like we said, the main thing to take away is just upgrade that CPU a little bit if you can afford the extra $25 to $100.
Who would have thought a $20 CPU from AliExpress would struggle a little bit? But all jokes aside, it is an Athlon, it's FX based. It's not gonna be as great as something like a Ryzen 3 1200. So yeah, check the link in the description down below. They will be affiliate links and will help us out. And I'll definitely leave some upgrade options for you, because you can easily add a Ryzen 3 1200. You could easily add a GPU up to like a 970, 960 level card. It is a little bit older, but that is a good used GPU option. There's a lot you can still do with this thing based on the current configuration.
So as always, we hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, check out our other two YouTube channels, and also our twitch.tv/toastybros, and do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
And we'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.
And hey, at our PC selling business, we got you covered with PCs that are this cheap and cheaper that'll actually play games, and we have all the way up to $6,000 gaming PCs.
PCBros.tech is our PC selling business. You can go to our website, check out all the stuff we have to offer, or come in person and buy a PC today. PCBros.tech. See you guys later. Goodbye.